My name is Julia. This is the most important to remember when you need to talk to me, to ask me questions. I'm your guide for today. I'm going to do the tour of Moscow for you. I know that yesterday you had a tour in the Olympic Village in Sochi. So today it's time to discover the capital of our country. This is the most important thing to see in Russia, of course. We are very lucky today. The weather is amazing. I think you can see already that it is sunny. The temperature is a bit below zero, something like -3, 4. It is rather comfortable. I should say that for Moscow, it is considered not cold at all. Very good winter temperature, a lovely winter day. Yeah, finally it's December, it's the real winter. Our tour will last approximately 1 hour and a half. I will show you the most interesting, the most important highlights of our city center. Now I'm standing on the theater square, so we will see the Bolshoy theater. It's right behind me. Next, we'll go to see the Revolution Square, one of the metro stations, Alexander's Garden with the tomb of the unknown soldier, of course, the heart of the country of Moscow, the Red Square, the famous shopping mall, the GUM, which is there as well, and one of our pedestrian streets, Nikolskaya. And we will finish our tour at the Lubyanka Square next to the KGB headquarters. So that's the plan for today. And before we get started, I just remind you that when you want to ask me something, to tell me something, don't forget to unmute your microphone and then mute it, please, when you don't need to talk. All right, now I'm switching the mode and we will see very beautiful views of Moscow. As I promised, we start with the Bolshoy theater. Bolshoy means big in Russian. This is really the biggest theater of the country, and it's really grand. This is the symbol of Russian ballet and opera. Yes, this is the National Opera and Ballet Theater. It was founded in the late 18th century, but this building of the classical style is the construction of the 19th century. In fact, more than half of Moscow was restored after the war with Napoleon, after the war of 1812. So most of what we see today actually was rebuilt because of the numerous fires of 1812. So it's a bit of history, but it's really important to understand that this war was one of the most crucial moments in our history, and it left an enormous trace in our culture and in our architecture as well. Of course, the Bolshoi Theater is famous, first of all, for the performances of Tchaikovsky. Peter Tchaikovsky still remains #1 Russian composer. So if you wish to see the Swan Lake, the Nutcracker, it's a very New Year show, I would say. Normally, it's very, very popular in the end of a year. The Sleeping Beauty as well, Eugene Onegin. So you need to come here to the historic stage. This is the main building of the Bolshoi, which is called the historic stage. And right next to it, on the left, it's in the shadow a bit, but I'm sure we can see this building with columns. This is the new stage of the Bolshoi. This is the information for those who would like to visit Moscow once and to enjoy Russian musical art. Next, on the right side of the Bolshoi Theater, we can see the gray building with the orange sign on the top. This is the Tsuma. So take care, we have two expansive shopping malls with similar names. Not similar names, but they are very much alike. Tsuma, which is here, and the Guma, which is on the Red Square. We will see it later. So Tsum, it is an abbreviation which stands for the Central Department Store, And the GUM, it is the main department store. So here, this one is an example of the New Gothic. To tell the truth, it is not a Russian style. We have a few buildings of the New Gothic in Moscow. But why such style? Because actually it was founded by two businessmen from Scotland in the 19th century. Marylise and Moore, that's how it was called originally. And you see now it's nicely decorated, especially for the new year, as a gift box with ribbons, with red ribbons. So it is particularly for holidays. And we are moving next. We see another theater, this yellow building. This is the Small Drama Theater. I remind you that now we are on the theater square. It is formed by the three different theaters. So we have already seen the Bolshoy, it's opera and ballet. The small theater, it is drama theater. And on the other side, now I will be turning my camera slowly. You will see the third one. Another yellow building. Maybe because of the sun you don't see the color, but we can see the theater itself. It is the Youth Drama Theater. In summertime, during the warm season, we have a beautiful fountain functioning here. But of course, in winter, it's not a very good idea. Normally, our fountains are open from April till September, when it is warm. And in September, they get closed and have rest. In a few seconds, we are going to cross the road, the theater passage, that's how it's called. And here we have a chance to see Moscow traffic. It is rather tense in the city center, rather busy, though it's not a rush hour, and of course we don't see any traffic jams, but anyway, it's rather active. We have 20 seconds to wait, and then we can cross. Yeah, our buses, public transportation, cars waiting on the traffic light, and now we are crossing the road. I've just noticed that now here we have 40 seconds to cross, but before it used to be only 25. And 25, it's a very short time to cross such a wide road. I think that recently, maybe the last month, they enlarged the time. Because people literally have to run to cross it. Unfortunately, the facade of the Metropole Hotel is now covered due to the restoration works, but I should say at least a few words about it, because it is one of the best five-star hotels of our city and one of the first luxury hotels. It was built before the revolution of 1917 in the early 20th century. So those who would like to stay in a splendid grand hotel when you visit Moscow, this is one of my recommendations, the Metropole. Don't look that it's not so nice today. Believe me, it is very, very impressive. Lenin himself lived in the Metropole. Actually, the Metropole after the revolution was used as the so-called House of the Soviets. The capital was transferred from St. Petersburg to Moscow. Yes, if you didn't know, for 2 centuries our capital was located in St. Petersburg. On Lenin's initiative, they moved it back here, and members of the new government of the Communist Party lived in such hotels, in in the historic buildings, in the historic manners. And if we started to talk about the communism and the socialist period of our history, which started after 1917, of course, I should mention this monument. This is Karl Marx. Karl Marx, who was the founder of the new ideology, which was adopted here with enthusiasm. And of course, everybody knows his name in our country. Almost every Russian city has a street of Karl Marx, and we call this monument the Fridge with a Beard. I should say that this area, the Revolution Square where we are now, still remains a very popular platform where communists still organize their meetings, their demonstrations. Communist Party still exists. Despite the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, of course it still exists. It is represented in our parliament, but now it is just one of the parties. Still quite active and popular. They don't have a majority, but anyway, so just for you to know that if you ever see people waving red flags, bringing red flowers here, it's just for you to know that you are in the epicenter of some communist demonstration. It is allowed. It is under the control of the authorities. Normally when we have such public gatherings, some demonstrations, some public holidays, there is a lot of police on the streets. A lot of security, some special regiments, not only police. So it is very well controlled, and you can normally feel safe. Another beautiful fountain here, which is also not functioning, of course. But I see this above structure. This is a New Year decoration with lights. It's supposed to be lit up, but not now, only in the evenings. This year, due to this situation with the coronavirus, we don't have any Christmas markets, we don't have any public celebrations, and Moscow will be looking a little bit different this year, unfortunately, but we have nothing to do with it. At least something. Actually, I'm surprised to see this thing. At least there will be a lot of illumination. And the New Year mood. Yeah, in a month, we are going to celebrate #1 holiday of our country. This is exactly the New Year. It's not the Christmas. It is important to understand about Russians. We are Orthodox, and in the Orthodox Church, Christmas is celebrated in January, on the 7th of January. So New Year comes first. That's why it is more important than the Christmas. Maybe this is the reason why exactly New Year is well, I mean, we prepare for this holiday, we exchange gifts exactly for New Year, not for Christmas. Usually on the 7th of January, we have some quiet, modest celebrations in a family circle, at home. Maybe some people go to a church for a mass, for a service, and that's it. So next, what do we see next? This massive building straight ahead. This is the backside of the Four Seasons Hotel. Now here there are different restaurants, shopping galleries. And I will say a few words about the facade of the hotel when we get there, because it's really important. It has some history behind it. So here I'm showing now this red fence. Normally here we have such it's very good that we have a picture so you can see what's there behind. Such city fairs, city markets, they're open from time to time, dedicated to different topics, perhaps, for example, the beginning of the school year, or I don't know, the fish week. I remember, yes, a few years ago there was a fish week, so they were selling different different kinds of fish, etc. But this year, as I explained, though I can actually see something is going on. They're preparing something, yeah. We'll see. I'm curious. I'm interested myself. Nobody knows what exactly will be going on this December and the beginning of January. So we are very excited anyway. But it was announced that no public celebrations this year. So officially, we are not supposed to have anything. Now I'm heading to the metro station with the same name, the Revolution Square. Yeah, this is the pavilion. And on the top, you can see the red letter M. This is the main entrance to the Revolution Square metro station. Why is it so important to show you our metro? It's a real masterpiece of the Soviet architecture. Some stations look like real palaces. In the 30s, when they started to build it, it was very important to show that the country was strong enough. The country, before the Second World War, it was very strong and possessed enough money, enough power, and this metro reflected the new ideology of the new country. It was named after Lenin. Here we see one of numerous statues of Lenin. Of course, now the number of the monuments of the Soviet period has been reduced since the 90s. Almost all of them were removed from the streets and squares of Moscow. And now I just want to explain you some practical things, how to buy tickets, how to use our subway. If you come to Moscow, here we have machines for that purpose, where you can select English, and you can buy tickets here. You can pay by card, of course. So as you see, one trip fare, it costs 57 rubles. Yeah. The more trips you buy, the cheaper it will be. Or you can, of course, you can buy them in the ticket offices. But normally, these ladies don't speak English. Usually, I'm not sure. And the information desk, of course, it is also here. So before we get down to the platform, also I would like to show you briefly the map of our underground. Yeah, you can imagine that Moscow is a very vast city, and it expands very quickly. We are now here. The name of the station is Площадь Революции, which means the Revolution Square. Now we need to get to this dark blue line. All right, I'm ready to go. I'm just trying to find my ticket. So I have such a card. I just put money on this card and I can pass. Yes, and of course I'm putting my mask on. And also I should say here that there might be some delay. The internet sometimes works not so good when we get down, but it should be okay, don't worry. Now I'm stepping on the escalator. Yes, here is the escalator. You can see it is very deep, it is very steep. The average depth of the stations in the city center is from 40 to 50 meters. The deepest in Moscow is 66. One of the reasons why it is so deep is that by the moment when we started to build it in 1935, Moscow was already preparing to the Second World War with Hitler, and underground stations were planned to be used as the bomb shelters. And exactly this one, the Revolution Square, was used as a bomb shelter. During the first 2 years of the war, bomb attacks were quite frequent, and Muscovites got used to it. They knew when they heard the alarm that they had to find the nearest shelter, and sometimes they could spend there a few days, not just a couple of hours, few days, yes. So they had to sleep here on the platforms, in the trains. They had to organize their life. It was a real underground city. And the second reason why it is so deep is the property of soil here. It is not rigid enough. And the deeper you dig, the safer it is. Well, here we see 78 bronze statues dedicated to the members of the new Soviet society. So what was the idea of the station? This name speaks for itself, the Revolution Square. Of course, it's the commemoration of this event in our history. I remind you, the Revolution of 1917. And also here they wanted to represent people of the new country. In 1938, when the station was constructed, people were still full of hope, still very enthusiastic about what was going on here. And altogether, they were moving towards the happy communist future. And now, my dear friends, you have a unique opportunity to make a wish being in Moscow. You see this lovely dog with a shining nose. It is #1 attraction of our metro. That's where people make wishes. They touch the nose of this dog, rubbing it. That's why it is so shining. And make a wish. It is just a local tradition, local superstition. Normally when people pass by, they always do it. It is not just for tourists. I think it is more popular among locals. Today it is not so crowded, and it's not rush hour, as I said, so it is not so busy here now. Yeah, nobody wants to make wishes today. And another interesting thing that I want to show you here. I know that you passed the course of the sport management and you are interested in the topic of sports. So here we have some representatives of Soviet sports. Yes, in this arch we have statues, 2 statues. This is a football player. You see he has a ball in his hands. And next to him is a girl with a discus. So here different spheres, different fields of life were attracted. Sports, education. Here we can see the family with 2 little children. Also agriculture and industry. But the most important was the military sector. Yeah, here there are students. A girl reading a book. Yeah, this is agriculture. Here there is a miner with a drill. By the way, that was a real person, miner Andrei Stakhanov. Maybe some of you heard this name. He improved technologies of cutting coal and exceeded the daily norm. That's why he became the national hero of the time of 1930s and deserved to be commemorated here. And here in the very beginning, we have the participants of the revolution and the civil war. The civil war after the revolution lasted for 4 hours. So it was over in 1921, and in 22, the new state, the new country, the Soviet Union, was established. And we are heading back to the surface to keep on walking and exploring our city center. I don't know, maybe now you can also hear the announcement. It is very common now at every metro station, actually not only in the metro, it's everywhere, about masks, gloves and sanitizers, etc., etc. Well, concerning masks, it is obligatory indoors. Here in the metro, you risk to be fined if to get a fine if you're not wearing a mask. It happens really often now, and most people, as you can see now, for example, I would say that 90% of passengers, they are in masks. Compared to the springtime, to summer season, it was much less. Now definitely more. And also, we have a lot of sanitizers at the metro stations, like here, for example. Yeah, I can now refresh my hands. Yeah, this one is not working. I can get to the next one. Yeah, this is also very common that they just run out of this liquid. Yeah, this one is okay. So to come out of the station, you don't need any ticket. It opens automatically. And we're back to the Revolution Square. That's what we have already seen. Behind the trees, we recognize the top of the Bolshoy Theater, the Metropole Hotel, and we're leaving all this behind. Yeah, the Four Seasons Hotel, which is really enormous. And this brick building straight ahead. Now the light is not very good, but in a few seconds you will see it better. So this red brick building is the Museum of the Patriotic War of 1812. We have already discussed this war with Napoleon in the very beginning of the tour. So this whole museum is dedicated to one war. Initially, that was the first city parliament here, Moscow Duma. Duma, it means the parliament. We have such a verb in Russian language, думать, which means to think. So Duma is a place where people gather to think. At least they're supposed to do it there. Here, I just want to draw your attention to the architecture of this gorgeous building. I just need to make a few more steps to show you the view. Oh, yes, now it's good. So this style is a particularly Russian style. It is called the New Russian, a pseudo-Russian style. It is the late 19th century. Please pay attention. It has so many tiny, elaborate details. It looks as if it was carved of wood, which is very typical for the old medieval Russian architecture. Most of the buildings in old Russia were wooden. It was the cheapest and the most accessible material. But it had one problem. You can guess which one. Yes, with fires. It burns very quickly, especially on a windy day. And you can imagine, in the old cities, uh, where attacks of different, enemies, different tribes were very, very frequent. Deliberately, they wanted to ruin the city. Of course, fires were inevitable. And so why was it replicated? Why was it reproduced in the 19th century? That's how the architects of that period tried to preserve the architectural harmony of the old historic center. At that time, it was really important not to lose the specific traits of Russian culture, of Russian history. It was all reflected in stone, as we say. And the building next to it, it is also red. It is also in the same style. It is the State Historical Museum. Now we will see that it is red. Yes, now the light is good. And between two museums, this structure with two turrets, it is the Resurrection Gate. It has always been the main entrance to the Red Square. I know that the Red Square is the target for today. Don't worry, I will show you this area in details a little bit later. First, I would like to show you the garden, and then we'll be back here. Yes, and straight ahead, it is the statue, the horse statue of our legendary person, legendary military hero, Zhukov, the commander-in-chief of the Soviet army in the Second World War. By the way, do you know that in Russia we call this war the Great Patriotic War? We have the whole park, Victory Park, in the western part of the city, with the museum dedicated to this war. So it is still a subject of national pride. We have such a holiday, the Victory Day, which is celebrated in May on the 9th, with a parade on the Red Square. And people are still very, very proud and excited about it. Here, straight ahead, I can see the main gate of the Alexander's Garden. So this is the commemoration of another war. Again, we get back to the War of 1812. You see, I'm talking much about this today, but as I said, it is really important. Alexander I, that was our emperor who defeated Napoleon, who reached Paris with Russian troops in 1814. And the whole Europe knows him as the Emperor Liberator. That's how we called him, Alexander the Liberator. Hence is the name, Alexander's Garden. In fact, it was the first public park arranged in 1817. And the river which flew here, Neglinka River, was hidden into the underground tube. This is the plan of the park. That's where we have entered. Number 1. Here we see the Kremlin towers, Kremlin wall with towers. The main entrance to the Kremlin. Yeah, this is the Trinity Tower. This is also for those who would want to visit the Kremlin. And the park is very long and narrow. And I said there was a river. We can see the bridge. The bridge has been preserved. So coming out of the Kremlin, people cross this Neglinka River by the bridge. Now it serves as the entrance to the Kremlin. I will tell you about the Kremlin a bit later when we get to the Red Square. because there will be the best view exactly from there. And we have come here to look at the tomb of the unknown soldier. The tomb of the unknown soldier, dedicated to the battle for Moscow. Hitler attacked Russia in June 1941. Attacked us from the west, from the Belarus. It took him 4 months to reach Moscow. We're very lucky because we're not near the border, and it's not so easy. It's not such a quick process to get here. And those who defended our capital, they were perished at the Kremlin wall. So here there are remnants of the defenders of the city. We see the eternal flame and 2 guards on both sides. Every hour, it is possible to see the ceremony of the changing guards. It is a very honorable military service, of course, and a very good start of their military career. And look there, we see the 3rd guard standing at the side, a little bit backwards. Usually he has a whistle, and if people break rules, for example, they try to cross the chain, which is here, they try to sit down on the sides because they consider them as benches and they want just to rest there. It is not allowed, so he starts whistling and reminds them that they cannot sit here. Now we don't have tourists today. That's why I don't think he needs his whistle. All right, now let's get back. We have seen the most interesting thing here in the garden. And there behind the trees, we see some yellow buildings. This is the Moscow State University, the first university of our city, founded in 1755. It still remains the largest in the country. It includes 43 faculties. It is annual enrollment is 80,000 students. You don't really often see dogs here in the city center, in the historic area of Moscow, but today we are really lucky. And now, as I promised, I want to tell you about the facade of the Four Seasons Hotel. Now we need to pay attention to the left and the right wings of the building. They are a little bit different. Some details. The right side is more plain, we can say. It is less decorated. On the left wing, there is more pink color. They have rounded windows on the top, and it looks really a strange project. So how come? How could they build it like this? Initially, that was supposed to be the Soviet Hotel Moscow, of course not the Four Seasons. In 1935, Stalin wished to have a hotel near Red Square. And the architect who was given a task to prepare a project decided to give him 2 different versions, for he could choose what he liked more. But this architect depicted 2 buildings as one with 2 different left and right sides. Stalin was supposed to sign either on the left or on the right, but he signed in the middle, and it was not clear what he meant, and everybody was afraid to ask what he meant. Sometimes it was not very safe, and it was decided to build it like this. Okay, he signed, no problem. It means that he didn't mind. So for the Four Seasons, the original exterior has been 100% preserved. Of course, they're indoors. It looks totally different compared to the Moscow Hotel. Now, it is definitely the most expensive hotel of our city compared to other chain five-star hotels like the Ritz-Carlton, the National, the Metropole, Balchuk Kempinski. It will be a double price here. Of course, depending on the season. And finally, my friends, we are getting closer to the Red Square. I hope you remind what I told you about these things. Museum number 1, the Patriotic War of 1812. Museum number 2, the State Historical Museum. It covers the entire Russian history except the 20th century. For the 20th century, we have the Contemporary History Museum, not here. Very ornate, very elegant Resurrection Gate with a small chapel dedicated to the miracle-making icon of the Holy Virgin. Russians adore miracle-working icons. Saint Nicholas, different types, different images of Virgin Mary, Smolenskaya, Vladimirskaya, Iverskaya, etc., etc. This is our favorite stuff. So the chapel is still active. I can even hear the singing from there. And of course, I should mention this very remarkable point. You see the girl is standing there. She's going to make a wish. And she's perfectly right. It's the correct spot to make wishes. I also want to make a wish. I wish that finally I would start doing our regular tours. I like online tours, I don't mind, but I would prefer that the next year the tourists would finally come to us. So it is called the 0 kilometer. This very spot was the starting point to measure all Russian roads. Now the central post office is used for this purpose, but in the old days, all Russian roads started from here. We call it the 0 kilometer. This very gate was a part of the second fortification of Moscow. It is important to know that as any medieval city, European city, Moscow has such a structure which consists of circles. The first circle, it was the Kremlin. The second circle was the Kitai-Gorod wall. So this Resurrection Gate was a part of the second fortification. And a lot of Tsars, they like to stop here before entering the Red Square, and they like to pray in this chapel. We haven't prayed now, but we have entered the square as Russian Tsars did. My congratulations. You're now in the heart of Russia. And let's start to discuss what we see here on the square. This very bright church is called the Kazansky Cathedral. Here there is another miracle-making icon, Kazanskaya Holy Virgin. This is a commemoration of the victory over the Polish. In the 17th century, there was a risk to be conquered by Poland. Seriously, Poland was very strong at that time, and Russia was weakened by some internal conflicts. It was a period between two ruling dynasties. So after we won, Russian Tsar Alexei decided to build this church and to bring an icon here. I should say that this one and the Resurrection Gate, so both, they were destroyed. They were blown up in the 30s because there appeared a new Soviet tradition to celebrate the day of the revolution with the parades, tanks on the Red Square. That was the official version, that we need more space, and these churches on our way, we don't need them anymore. So let's just get rid of it. Only in the 90s, these two objects were restored. These are very young copies. Next, of course, we should discuss the Kremlin. That's where Moscow started, in the Kremlin. This word Kremlin means a fortress, literally. It is a fortification. It has a shape of a triangle. We have seen one side of this triangle in Alexander's garden. This is the second wall, and the third one runs along the Moscow River. More than 2 kilometers, the length of the wall. And we can see very beautiful towers. For example, this one, the Tower of St. Nicholas. Another tower with a star on the top. It is the Tower of the Savior, Christ the Savior. And in between, here in between, right behind the wall, we see the yellow building with a flag on the top. This is our president's office. That's where Vladimir Putin works. Officially, yes, it's called a residence, but actually, he doesn't reside, he doesn't live there. Yes, the Kremlin has always been, since its foundation, it's always been someone's residence. Princes of Moscow, then Russian Tsars. By the way, do you know who became the first Tsar? It was Ivan the Terrible in 1547. Then, after Peter the Great moved the capital to St. Petersburg in 1712, it was kind of abandoned a little bit. And after 1917, Soviets moved in. Lenin lived here, Stalin lived here, but nowadays, no, it is not common. By the way, if we started to talk about Lenin, I want to show you the place where his embalmed body is. But before actually, there is a very good view here on the left side. I must show you the skating rink, which blocks the half of the square, blocks the view, but you can see people skating now. This is our annual tradition. On behalf of the GUM, of the shopping mall, and the Bosco company, they organize this skating rink from December till March. And this year, they even have free sessions at 10 a.m. So it's possible to come here and to skate for free. Very nice music is playing. I see it's not so crowded. It must be rather comfortable. Usually, behind the skating rink, there is a Christmas market, but as I explained, not this time. Yes, and let's get back to our Soviet history. We cannot skip it. It is really important. Now, seriously, this mausoleum is quite a unique thing. We can see it right now in the shape of pyramid. It's made of the red granite. This is the third version of the mausoleum. And concerning Lenin himself, well, his body was considered the main treasure of our nation. I'm not joking. You know, when the war started, it was moved, for the safety reasons, it was moved to the north of the country, for it was not bombed. Only when the war was over, they moved it back to Moscow. Yes, here we can see the name, Lenin, in Russian, of course. It is closed. Now it's open daily from 10 to 1. Now it's already almost 2. It is already closed. So it's open daily except Monday and Friday, just for those who would want to visit. It's a free access. You don't need to buy any tickets, but you will just need to wait some time in a line because of the security control. It was Stalin's idea to embalm Lenin's body to preserve him for the next generations. You see, he was treated as a real national hero. And Stalin himself is buried right behind. In fact, it was a real cemetery for the very elite of the country, military, political, scientific elite. Yuri Gagarin, the first cosmonaut, the first man in the space, is also buried here. Around 400 persons. The last burials were in the 80s. So it's a historic cemetery. We don't bury here anymore. Moreover, I can tell you that now there are discussions about Lenin. Maybe it's better to finally bury him, to transfer his body from here. But this question is still open. All right, now let's move ahead. The clock tower. I've already mentioned its name. It's the Savior's Tower, and also known as the clock tower. This clock chimes every 15 minutes, so very soon we can hear it. The mechanism of this clock is huge. It occupies, what would you think? It occupies 3 floors. So it's more than 6 meters. In the old days, it was the main entry tower. To enter the Kremlin. It was used very often during different religious holidays, official ceremonies. Now it is used only as the exit from the Kremlin. So for tourists, it's only the exit. You cannot enter from here. Entrance is only from the Alexander's Garden. And today it's closed anyway. By the way, now our museums are closed for visits, for tourist visits, due to the situation. But of course, Kremlin is not just a museum. So first of all, it is the political object of the country. It is the residence of our president. That's what it is, first of all. Secondly, it is one of the most meaningful museums where you can admire churches, palaces of the 15th century, where you can visit the Armory Chamber and the Diamond Fund. Of course, concerning Moscow, this is the most popular, the most frequented museum. And of course, now it's time to talk about our iconic church. Yes, St. Basil's Cathedral. We can see its colorful domes. And it gives us the feeling of some fairy tale architecture. I should say that such colors of the onion domes, it is not typical for Russia. Normally our domes, they are just gilded, or maybe blue or green or even black sometimes. But this is something very extraordinary. Look at the structure of the church. We see one big tower in the middle, the chapel, not tower, it's a chapel, and 9 chapels surrounding the main. There inside, all 10 chapels are connected by passages and staircases. It's possible to get from one to another. There is no one single space like in a usual church. So it looks bizarre there inside, but interesting and unusual, of course. It is important to know the history of this landmark. In the middle of the 16th century, Russia was still a young country, very active country, which needed an access to the east. At that time, Tatars who lived in the east, they were our main enemies. They were constant invasions of Tatars to Russia. And Ivan the Terrible, when he finally defeated them and joined their capital, the city of Kazan, to our country, he was so happy. He decided to celebrate this victory. And he ordered to build this gorgeous cathedral. So this is the commemoration of the victory in Kazan in 1552. So who was Saint Basil? This is another interesting story. That was a real person who lived in Moscow at the same period. He was so-called a fool for Christ's sake. He considered himself a fortune teller, a street prophet. His behavior was very weird. He usually walked around naked. He lived literally on the streets. He rejected earthly comforts. He didn't need money. He didn't need home. He didn't need clothes. Maybe only food. People knew him very well because he always nagged. He always nagged them and was trying to teach how to live and what to do. When he died, he was buried on the grounds of this cathedral. So the last chapel, we can see it from here, by the way, the small one, green and red. We can see this dome, onion dome. Yeah, this is the chapel of St. Basil. The silver shrine with his body is still there. Official name of the church is the Intercession Cathedral. But usually we don't use it. We say St. Basil's. But if you ever see this name in some guidebooks or elsewhere, just for you to know, actually it has two names. And of course, I cannot skip this very monument to the national liberators, Minin and Pożarski. I have already said a few words about the Polish intervention in the early 17th century. So these two came from the city of Nizhny Novgorod with the milice army, and they were able to drive away our enemies who already occupied the Kremlin. You see, they have a sword and a shield, symbols of defense, of protection. And 2 centuries later, this monument appeared on the square. An interesting fact, initially it stood in the middle of the Red Square. And it was moved here only in the 30s because I explained to you there were parades organized here. There was not enough space. Of course, they could not leave it in the middle. And also look at his outstretched hand. It's pointing to the Kremlin. In the Soviet time, it was a very strange gesture. It looked as if he suggested to get rid of the Soviet power. That was another reason why it was removed here from the center of the square, because now it's a neutral gesture. It doesn't symbolize anything. But obviously Soviet power didn't like it from the start, this double meaning. And now it's time to discuss the name. Why Red Square? At first glance, this answer is very, very obvious because almost everything that we see here is of red color. No, actually this name has nothing to do with the color itself. In the old Russian language, red means beautiful apart from the color. Initially here in this area there was a market with a lot of wooden structures which caused numerous fires, and it was very disturbing, all these fires next to the residence of our local nobility, next to the Kremlin. That's why the market was removed a little bit backwards to the spot where the modern GUM now is. This is the GUM I'm showing you. So deliberately, this area between the trading rows and the fortress was left empty. not occupied. And Muscovites realized that it was so nice, so beautiful without a market here. Hence is the name, the beautiful square, red square. In the modern language, red and beautiful, these are different words. Red is krasnaya, beautiful is krasivaya, but you can hear they have the similar root. These words sound similar. Yes, and now, by the way, we can hear the chiming. I hope that you can hear it as well. Yeah, the Savior's Tower. Of course, the main chiming of this clock takes place on the New Year's Eve. Yes, a lot of people come here and waiting. They're standing right here on the square and waiting for this chiming because it symbolizes the beginning of the new year. It is broadcasted. Those who don't come, they can watch it on TV, as well as the congratulations of our president. All right, and now it's time to discover the GUM inside. You know, for us it is more historic than shopping mall. We should admire its beautiful interiors, and I invite you to follow there inside. In fact, it's the first real shopping mall of the country, opened in 1893. As I said before, there was located a market, or simply the trading rows. That's how we called it. So this one was called the upper trading rows, and also there across the road, they were middle trading rows. Now the building is under the reconstruction. So we are interested in the upper trading rows, and the GUM, it is a Soviet name. This abbreviation, I remind you, it means the main department store. And here we can see this sign, Happy New Year, that's what it says. The GUM consists of 3 passages, and each passage has its entrance. So now we are going to enter from the second line. The security at the entrance. So нормально? Okay, I want to show you the working hours from 10 to 10. That's the usual schedule of our malls. They're open till late normally. I think you could notice already that it's rather fancy, it's rather expensive mall. We can read the names of the brands. Usually there are not many customers here, but it has a very special atmosphere. First of all, the GUM is famous for its ice cream. Yes, I know that the winter is not the most popular season for the ice cream, but anyway, they almost ran out of it today. But in summer, you should definitely taste it. And of course, we have at least some preparations for the new year. Christmas ornaments. So what interesting can we find? We see the nutcracker. As I said, it's one of the symbols of our new year. It is a very famous ballet. The nutcracker, that's him. Russian dolls, matryoshka, #1 souvenir to bring from Russia. And now let's pass to the first line. There I want to show you something that might be interesting for you. First of all, let's look at this sign. The name Bosco di Ciliegi. Bosco di Ciliegi, it is the Italian name, which means the cherry orchard. So this company, Bosco di Ciliegi, represents most of the brands here, like Max Mara, Alberto Ferretti, Paul Smith, and also they have their own subdivision, which is called the Bosco. Here it's Bosco Fresh. Maybe you know that for a certain period, they were the official sponsors of our Olympic team. So they provided them with the sport outwear, our national team at the Olympic Games from 2002 till 2016. So the last time, our national team was wearing a Bosco outfit in Rio de Janeiro in 2016. To tell the truth, now I'm not aware if they're still in charge or not, but that's what I found on their official website. Now I'll try to come in, and if they let me show you something. Здрасте, здрасте. Я тут веду просто экскурсию. Если вы не против, я что-то покажу. I think they don't mind, yes. Yeah, we can see this name, Bosco, everywhere. Of course, the name of Russia. So such kind of clothes, it was possible to see on our sportsmen, on our participants during the games. You see, it's a classic combination of a red, blue, and white. Yeah, and even here we can see this emblem. This is our national emblem, the double-headed eagle. Yes, it's a symbol of the national team. Why not? Very good idea. All right, now we can leave. So this name Bosco is very recognizable here. They even have some pictures, as I see. Okay, now if you're interested in some Olympic stuff, you know where to come. It is in the GUM. Or another place in Moscow where you can buy Bosco is the Petrovsky Passage. Here there is also the subdivision, which is called the Bosco family. So it is the clothes for men, women, for children. So they're united in Bosco family. But mostly these are just mono brands. Bosco Happy Store, yeah, that's where we can also find some decorations. And of course a Christmas tree. I'm telling you, this year, seriously, we don't have much of this stuff. And it's really a big fun to find it at least somewhere. So GUM is a perfect place for that. For different holidays, it is richly decorated. It's not only New Year and Christmas. They always have some exhibitions here. It looks very spectacular. And the highest Christmas tree is here. By the way, do you know how we call our Santa Claus? We don't actually have Santa Claus. We have Father Frost. Father Frost and his granddaughter, Snow Girl, Снегурочка. Дед Мороз and Снегурочка. We can see them. We can find them here, by the way. I see this composition in the center on the left. There is a figure of the Father Frost, of Ded Moroz, and next to him on the right side, in the dark blue coat, this is a Snow Girl. So usually they travel together to deliver gifts to children. And I hope that now you can hear lovely music. GUM is also famous for its old-fashioned music from different Soviet movies, cartoons, or just classic music, which also contributes in its special atmosphere. Since the end of the 19th century, as I said, it was the main trade spot. Very luxurious, very expensive. Then after the revolution, it was used for different purposes, actually. There was even a dormitory. There were different offices. It became national property, and trade stopped here. It was reestablished only in the 60s after Stalin's death, when Nikita Khrushchev came to power. In Soviet time, it was more crowded. In Soviet time, there were no foreign brands at all. There was nothing imported. There was only local stuff. Now it looks completely different, of course, compared to the Soviet times. I think you can see already, we've been walking for more than an hour. You can see that Moscow is a rather westernized capitalist city. I mean that a lot of our foreign tourists, they expect to see something very different, more of the Soviet period, but I can say that it's gone. It is not represented in the extent that most people expect to see. It is more Western now. Okay, we have left the GUM. And let's get back to the square from the side of Nikolskaya Street. I forgot to tell you one remarkable story related to the sports about a famous football match which took place in July 1936 here. Yes, it was something very unusual because normally nobody plays football here. There are plenty of other different events, including sport events. There was boxing, for example, but no football matches. That one of 1936 was the first and the last one. At that time, football was not so very widespread, not so popular. So to promote this sport, especially during the reign of Stalin, the leader of the team Spartak decided to arrange a match right here on the square. So for that purpose, they created an artificial pitch of the green color. They were preparing it by night because, of course, during the day, the square was busy. And the match was supposed to last for 15 minutes. It was not the real game. It was a very well-prepared show. And there were no two teams. They were members of one team, Spartak, playing with each other as if there were two teams. So finally, Stalin liked it very much. He even asked to continue after the first 15 minutes. So in total, it lasted for half an hour. And in the end, he said they did it very well. It was a very good sign. It meant that he liked it and was going to promote football and to support it financially, of course. So we can say that it was a very good start for our football games in Russia. And it took place exactly here on the Red Square, which was very unexpected. All right, now we're heading back. We have done the most part of the tour, and now we're heading to the Lubyanka Square, where we are going to finish. And this is the pedestrian street Nikolskaya, or Street of Saint Nicholas. Supposedly, this street got its name from the Kremlin tower of Saint Nicholas, which is right behind me. Also, there was located the monastery of Saint Nicholas. The monastery is still here, but has a different name. He's really one of the most worshipped saints in Russian Orthodox Church. That's why if you come to Russia, you will see that this name, Saint Nicholas, is quite common here. I mean, for different objects, like streets, of course, icons of Saint Nicholas you can find in every Russian church. Here at Nikolskaya Street, you can find gift souvenir stores. And of course, I should say about Nikolskaya Street that in 2018, during the World Cup, it was the unofficial fan zone. It was the official fan zone at the Luzhniki Stadium, where the first and the last games of the World Cup took place. But here, of course, most of the fans, most of the guests, they preferred to stay exactly here. It was something unbelievable. It was impossible to walk here in the evenings. It was so crowded. There was so much fun. I remember there were even broken benches, especially during the first 2 weeks. It was the second half of June, 2018. 11 Russian cities participated in the World Cup. But of course, the epicenter was Moscow. Though I remember that most of our tourists, they actually followed their teams going from one city to another. There were even stories, well, I heard not once, that people somewhere from I don't know, maybe Mexico, from Latin America, they used to sell their houses to get money to be able to come to Russia. I don't know if it's true or not, but that we had such stories, it's a fact. But usually the street is rather quiet. There are not so many people, at least in winter during the week. On weekends, it's more crowded here. And well, this is the monastery. The monastery, by the way, where there was located the first real school gymnasium for boys. And here studied the founder of the first Moscow University. His name was Michael Lomonosov. He's an outstanding person because He was a son of a fisherman. Maybe it is hard to believe that a fisherman's son founded the first university, but it's absolutely true. He was a real genius. He was so eager to study. He did his best. And finally, with the support of our empress, first Elizabeth and Catherine, he founded the first university. And all these lights that we see here, I don't know if you see the lamps, but actually they are. Of course, it is more spectacular when it is dark, but this street illumination is very, very common in Moscow. Initially, it was arranged just for the holidays, for New Year and Christmas, but here, exactly at the Nikolskaya street, it's been left for all year round. Yes, it looks very nice, though there is another opinion that it spoils the view and blocks the facades, the historic facades of the buildings. No, I find it really nice. What is also very common to find in our historic center, in the historic area where there are a lot of old buildings and they need to be restored, their facades are usually covered, not to spoil the general view. And normally it is always depicted how the building would look like in the end. So just to give an idea of what it is and how it's supposed to look. The Nikolskaya Street is the educational center of Moscow, traditionally. Center of the book trade. And here there was founded another university. It's called the Russian State University for Humanities. We can see it right now, which still now remains one of the best in our city. Very beautiful facade, very old-fashioned. Initially, on that very spot, there was located the first printing court of the country. And the first Russian book was issued exactly here in 1564. Then the first Russian newspaper in 1703 here as well. And regarding its architecture, I want to draw your attention to one interesting detail. Look, the building has so-called sundials. We can see it from here. Sundials above the doors. When the shadow falls on the dial, it points to the numbers. So on a sunny day, when the shadow is distinguishable, you can tell the time. That's what Muscovites did in the old days. Of course, now nobody uses it, but it was something very practical centuries ago. Maybe you guys have any questions. You are so silent during the whole tour. You have a chance to ask me. You're welcome. Because I'm talking, trying to give you as much information as possible. So maybe you're interested in something else. No? Okay, then let's go ahead. Here in this very building, there was located the first real restaurant of Moscow. I mean, on European manner, with a really good service, with snow white table cloth. It was called Slaviansky Bazaar. It's not there anymore, but I heard that it's going to be restored, reopened. And next to it, there goes the musical theater, which was included in the Bolshoy theater. We can see the emblem of the Bolshoy theater right there. Yeah, I think you can recognize the facade of the Bolshoy. It's a small, kind of small stage of the Bolshoy theater. And on the other side, it is a good place to eat in Moscow. It is a gastro market, this orange sign. It is called Around the World. There are different types of cuisines. So it will be quickly, not expensive, and with a good variety, very good choice. It is my recommendation. If you come to Moscow, now you know where you can come. Another good place, it's a restaurant which is called Wine and Crab on the other side. Crab. It is a Russian specialty. Our crabs, they come mostly from the Pacific Ocean, from the far east of Russia, or from the northwest, from Murmansk, from the White Sea. So that's where you can taste them. Apart from the borscht and pelmeni, which are actually, well, more common, more popular than crabs, of course. But if you want something exquisite, then caviar and crabs. The Tretyakov Passage, one of the shortest streets in our city, named after the founders of the Tretyakov Art Gallery. They were really good businessmen, and they liked to spend money to support Russian culture and art. They opened boutiques on both sides of this street, and also decorated this passage with the tower, Tretyakov Gate, that we see straight ahead. If you are fond of arts, then I recommend you to go to this Tretyakov Art Gallery to get acquainted with Russian painters. I don't think that it's really famous, that Russian art is really famous in the world, but it's worth your attention, believe me. Just remember this name, Tretyakov Art Gallery, and here next to the Nikolskaya Street, Tretyakov Art Passage. We have almost reached the end of the street, and I can see the yellow building of the FSB or KGB headquarters. So regarding the name of this organization, for tourists, we usually say the KGB because you are more familiar exactly with this name. In fact, it's just one of the names. Initially, it was called ЧК, like Emergency Committee. It was called NKVD, KGB. Now it's called FSB. In the 90s, it was transformed and renamed due to the fall of the Soviet Union. I guess the meaning has changed, also the functions. It still remains the National Security Service, not so tough, not so brutal as it was known during the Soviet times, especially in 1930s when a lot of people suffered from the arrests and exiles. Now it's not so scary anymore, but of course this image of the scary KGB still exists. But for us it is more a subject of, jokes and anecdotes. Я тоже извиняюсь, я просто экскурсию веду. So the building of the KGB has always been here on that very spot. Has been a little bit changed. And maybe you know that Vladimir Putin, our president, he was the head of the KGB, but not here in St. Petersburg before he became a president. He headed the KGB. And the area is called the Lubyanka Square. Lubyanka metro station, we see two white arches of the metro station. We call them the ears of the KGB, these two entrances, because they look like ears. Yeah? And the last landmark, this very massive, very imposing shopping center, it is the Central Children's Store. A very special one. Can you imagine the whole thing is for kids? I think it's too much. But that was the initial idea, the initial project. In 1957, we expected a lot of guests from other countries for the festival. There was an international festival held in Moscow, Festival of Youth and Students. You can imagine, in the 50s, when the country was still very closed, very isolated from the rest of the world, from the capitalist world. It was very important to put the emphasis on our happy socialist life, to show that our children did not suffer here at all. They had almost everything what children in capitalist countries had. It was something of that kind, which is at the ideologic background of this mall. Well, the festival itself, it was a big fun. It lasted for around 2 weeks. It was a very good chance for Muscovites to get acquainted with foreigners, with their culture. To tell the truth, it was the first real contact with foreign people, because maybe you know it was not allowed to travel, to cross the borders for the majority of our population. But thanks God, this period was over. Now, unfortunately, this period was re-established just due to the epidemic situation. But I hope it will be over very soon. And we will be able to travel, to see each other in person. And I will be able to guide you all over Moscow. We have other tours by car. We have tours to the neighboring towns. We will be very glad, very happy to see you all. I remind you that you still can ask me some questions. This is your last chance. We have finished our program. And so if you want to say something, you're welcome. Is anyone alive there on the other side?
Thank you.
Or not?
Just say thank you.
We are here.
I hope you're still alive. You have been with me till the end. And
can you hear us?
I'm telling you goodbye.
Thank you so much for the wonderful.
I hope you can hear me.
Thank you.
I just don't have my earphones because of the mask. I don't have my phones in the ears. So yeah, now I can hear.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was a wonderful tour.
Thank you.
To do it live next time.
Okay, thank you.
Really great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was amazing. Thank you very much. It is from India.
Yeah, thank you for your attention.